Dad said nobody would separate us. 8-year-old Ella Torres screamed the words as 2 security officers tried to pull her father into the aisle. Gabriel had one hand gripping the back of first-class seat 2A and the other held open so the officers could see he was not resisting. "My boarding pass scanned green at the gate," he said. "Check the live system before you touch me again." The cabin supervisor pointed to a printed passenger list. "Your name is not assigned to this cabin." Ella wrapped both arms around Gabriel's waist. Her noise-canceling headphones had slipped to her neck. The chimes, voices, and engine hum struck her all at once. "Please," Gabriel said. "She is autistic. Let me calm her." "You can calm her in the terminal," the supervisor replied. A woman seated one row behind them stood. She wore a plain white blouse and had said nothing during the argument. Now she held out her boarding pass. "My name isn't on your list either," she said quietly. "Are you removing me too? Or will you finally admit that your list is wrong?" The supervisor read the name on the pass. Natalie Rhodes, chief executive of the airline. For 21 months, Gabriel had saved $40 from every paycheck for 2 airplane seats. He worked nights repairing elevators in office buildings across Denver. His uniform was charcoal gray. His hands carried permanent black lines near the nails, and overtime depended on how many machines broke after midnight. Ella's mother lived in another state and had not exercised visitation in more than 2 years. She called occasionally, usually after promising herself she would call more. Gabriel no longer built Ella's calendar around promises he could not control. He was the parent who stayed. Ella was bright, literal, and sensitive to sound. She could identify every elevator model from the rhythm of its motor, but a hand dryer in a public restroom could send her running. Sudden changes frightened her less because they were new than because everyone else seemed to understand rules no one had explained to her. Gabriel learned to explain the world before asking her to enter it. He drew picture schedules for doctor visits. He let her watch videos of unfamiliar buildings. Before her first day of school, they walked the route 6 times and counted every red door. Flying required more preparation than anything they had attempted. Ella's grandmother, Rosa, lived in Portland. She had missed 4 birthdays because arthritis made travel difficult. When Rosa suffered a mild stroke, she recovered, but her voice on video calls became slower. "I want to see Grandma where she is real," Ella told Gabriel. He began researching flights. Economy was not impossible, but it created risks. Tight rows made it difficult for Ella to move without touching strangers. Boarding crowds trapped passengers in the aisle. If the airline separated their seats after an aircraft change, Ella might panic before Gabriel could explain. First class on the short domestic flight offered 2 seats on each side, early boarding, more physical space, and a quieter cabin. It was not medically necessary. It was a tool that made success more likely. The tickets cost $1,460. Gabriel did not have $1,460. He opened an envelope labeled Ella Flies. Every Friday, $40 went inside. He stopped buying lunch during night shifts. He repaired a neighbor's elevator-style wheelchair lift and put the payment in the envelope. He sold a motorcycle helmet from a bike he no longer owned. When the envelope finally held enough, Gabriel purchased seats 2A and 2C on Horizon Meridian Flight 286 to Portland. The next morning, his coworker Luis saw the confirmation page beside Gabriel's toolbox. "First class," Luis asked. "You finally win the lottery?" Gabriel almost minimized the screen. The words "first cabin" looked extravagant beside a lunchbox held shut with silver tape. "It is quieter," he said. 2 seats together. More room if she needs to regulate." Luis nodded, but another mechanic overheard. $1,400 for a 2-hour flight. Put the kid by the window and buy her candy. Gabriel tightened a bolt until the wrench bit into his palm. He could have explained sensory overload, separation risk, and why bribing a frightened child only teaches her that adults do not understand the fear. Instead, he looked at the man's spotless work gloves and said, "I am not buying luxury. I am buying the best chance my daughter has to reach her grandmother without believing the world is an ambush." That night, the water heater began leaking. Gabriel sat on the laundry room floor with the ticket receipt open on his phone and a hardware store estimate in his hand. The airline allowed cancellation for 24 hours. For 11 minutes, his thumb hovered over the button. Then Ella appeared in the doorway holding a drawing of Rose's apartment. She had copied it from a video call. Green sofa, yellow curtains, grandmother waiting beside the window. This is where she is real, Ella said. Gabriel closed the cancellation page. He patched the heater, took 2 extra overnight calls, and slept 4 hours across the next 3 days. The seats were never a prize. They were 21 months of saying no to smaller comforts, so Ella could say yes to one difficult journey. Ella studied the seat map. There is no 2B. In first class, the seats are wider. A and C are beside each other. That is alphabetically dishonest. Airplanes are full of surprises. I do not like surprises. Then we will learn all the ones we can. For 6 weeks, they practiced. They visited the airport observation deck. Gabriel found recordings of boarding chimes and played them quietly at home. Ella wore her headphones while sitting in a row of kitchen chairs. They practiced what to do if the seatbelt sign turned on, if turbulence shook the cup, if a flight attendant asked a question, and if the schedule changed. Their most important practice happened at a small aviation museum. An old passenger cabin sat inside a hangar, complete with narrow aisle, overhead bins, and faded blue seats. A volunteer agreed to let Gabriel rehearse boarding before opening hours. The first attempt lasted 4 minutes. A recorded engine sound began without warning. Ella dropped to the floor and covered her ears. Gabriel turned off the speaker and drove her home without calling the practice a failure. "We learned the sound starts too fast," he said. "I ruined it." You cannot ruin information. On the second visit, Ella controlled the volume herself. On the third, the volunteer rolled a service cart down the aisle. On the fourth, Gabriel deliberately changed their assigned row and used card 3 to explain why. Ella cried, moved to the new seats, and then asked to repeat the change. Her occupational therapist told Gabriel that success did not mean preventing every distress response. Success means she knows distress will not make you disappear, the therapist said. That sentence became Gabriel's real promise. He could not promise that flights would be quiet, schedules stable, or strangers patient. He could promise that every change would be explained and that they would face it together. Gabriel created 3 rule cards. Card 1, we stay together. Card 2, we ask before we move. Card 3, if something changes, Dad explains. On travel morning, Ella woke before the alarm. She wore a sweatshirt with tiny elevators printed on it and carried the 3 cards in a clear pocket around her neck. At the airport, everything worked. The accessibility desk added a note requesting calm pre-boarding. The gate agent scanned both boarding passes. Green lights flashed. Seats 2A and 2C, the agent said. You are all set. Ella looked at Gabriel. Green means the rule is true. Green means we board. They settled into first class before the main crowd. Gabriel showed Ella the air vent, call button, tray table, and window shade. She placed card 1, we stay together, in the seat pocket where both of them could see it. Then a couple named Preston and Mara Vale boarded. Preston stopped at row 2. Those are our seats. Gabriel showed his pass. We have 2A and 2C. Preston displayed the airline app on his phone. It showed the same seats. The flight had changed aircraft twice overnight. During the first swap, the Valles briefly received a complimentary upgrade. When the original plane returned, Gabriel and Ella's purchased seats came back to them, and the Valles moved to row 6. The live system held the truth. The Valles phones and a paper manifest printed at 4:55 still held the past. That paper also omitted Natalie Rhodes, the airline CEO, who booked seat 3C after 6 that morning. Cabin supervisor Diane. Mercer first scanned Preston's phone. The barcode returned red, but Preston's name appeared on her printed list. Then she scanned Gabriel's pass. Her handheld device had lost its network connection during catering, so it displayed offline, referred to manifest. Diane trusted the paper. Mr. Torres, your seats are not valid. They scanned at the gate. You may have boarded with a pass from the previous aircraft. The seat numbers are the same, the flight is the same, and the gate agent said we were confirmed. Diane looked at Gabriel's worn canvas backpack and gray work jacket. Then she looked at Preston's gold status tag and tailored coat. How did you purchase these tickets? She asked Gabriel. With a credit card. Did someone offer you an upgrade at the gate? No. I chose these seats 21 months after I started saving for them. Preston sighed. This is absurd. We fly this route every month. Gabriel met his eyes. We bought these seats once. That is enough. Diane called the gate. But the agent was assisting a passenger in a wheelchair and did not answer immediately. Boarding continued. Bags struck seats. The cabin grew louder. Ella put on her headphones and touched card 2. We asked before we move. Diane asked Gabriel to wait in the jet bridge while she resolved the issue. No, he said. The jet bridge is full, and leaving will tell my daughter that our plan has failed. Bring a live scanner here. You are refusing a crew instruction. I am asking you to verify the boarding passes your airline issued. Sir, we cannot delay the flight because you refuse to move. Gabriel glanced at Ella. Her fingers were tapping 4 beats against the armrest, a sign she was working hard to remain regulated. Then stop arguing from a piece of paper printed before we checked in. Diane called security. Her report stated, 2 passengers occupy first-class seats not assigned on manifest. Adult refuses TOD plane. It omitted the green gate scan. It omitted Preston's red result. It omitted her offline device. Officers Keene and Wallace entered the aircraft. Diane pointed to Gabriel. That passenger refuses to leave. Keene stopped at row 2. Stand up. Now. Will you scan my pass against the live system? That is the airline's job. They have not done it. You can resolve the ticketing issue at the gate. My daughter is autistic. Removing us into a crowded jet bridge will cause distress, and there is no evidence our tickets are invalid. Keene reached for Gabriel's arm. Gabriel pulled back. Not fast. Not violently. Just enough to place his body between the officer and Ella. Do not touch me until somebody scans the pass. Keene's hand closed around his forearm. He pulled once. Gabriel's shoulder jerked toward the aisle. Ella pulled off her headphones when she saw the contact. Sound crashed into her. She screamed. Dad said nobody would separate us, and wrapped herself around Gabriel. Passengers lifted phones. Wallace moved to the other side of the row. Release the seat, Keene ordered. Gabriel gripped the seat back. If he let go, Keene would pull him into the aisle. If he held on, they could call it resistance. Ella's arms tightened around his waist. Dad, one word, barely audible beneath the cabin noise. Gabriel looked down at her and understood what she was really asking. Does your promise still work? My boarding pass scanned green, he repeated. Check the live system before you touch me again. Diane held up the early manifest. His name is not assigned to this cabin. Keene pulled a second time. Gabriel's hand slipped along the seat back. Another few inches, and he would be in the aisle. Then, from one row behind them, came the soft click of a seat belt opening. It was not loud, but somehow, the entire cabin heard it. A woman in seat 3C rose slowly. Between 2 fingers, she held a boarding pass. Natalie Rhodes had waited for the crew to solve an ordinary seat dispute. She stood when verification became force. She handed Diane her boarding pass. My name isn't on your list either, Natalie said. Are you removing me too? Or will you finally admit that your list is wrong? Diane found seat 3C on the paper. It named a passenger who had canceled at 5:20. This pass was issued at 6:14, Natalie continued. Your manifest was printed at 4:55. It cannot prove who belongs on this aircraft. Ma'am, please remain in your seat. Scan it. The device is offline. Then why are you using that device's failure as evidence against him? The question quieted the cabin. The gate agent arrived carrying a connected scanner. She scanned Natalie's pass. Green. Seat 3C. She scanned Gabriel's. Green. Seat 2A. She scanned Ella's. Green. Seat 2C. Accessibility note attached. She scanned Preston's phone. Red. New seat 6A. Mara's pass showed 6C. Diane looked at Natalie's name again. Recognition appeared. Ms. Rhodes. Officer Keene released Gabriel. You are the CEO? Natalie did not look at him. She looked at Ella, who was shaking against her father. I am, she said. But every green scan mattered before you knew that. The valets moved to row 6. Preston apologized to no one. Mara paused beside Gabriel. I am sorry, she said. We should have checked our app. Gabriel nodded once. He was using every part of his attention to help Ella. He placed her headphones back over her ears, then showed her the 3 cards. We stay together. We ask before we move. If something changes, Dad explains. He pointed to the first card and signed the words they practiced for emergencies. I am here. The seats are ours. No one is taking me. Ella pressed her forehead into his shoulder. The green rule was true, she whispered. Yes. The people were wrong. Yes. Natalie asked the gate agent to pause boarding for 3 minutes so the aisle around Ella could clear. She directed Diane to step away from the family and assigned another crew member to serve row 2. Then she asked Gabriel whether he wanted to leave the flight and travel later. He looked at Ella. Canceling would teach her that the airport had defeated the plan. Staying might ask too much after the confrontation. Ella chooses, he said. He showed her 2 new cards on his phone. Fly now or rest and fly later. Ella stared at them, then touched fly now. Grandma is real in Portland, she said. They remained. Before the door closed, the station manager wrote an incident record. Gabriel insisted that it include the times each pass was issued and scanned, the age of the printed manifest, the offline status of the cabin device, and the fact that officers made physical contact before any live verification. Do not write seat confusion, he said. Confusion is what happened in the computer. Choices are what happened after. Natalie heard him and asked for the same distinction in the executive review. The captain came out of the cockpit, glanced at the boarding clock, and asked whether everyone was ready to close the door. We are ready to fly, the station manager said. That was not my question, Gabriel replied. The cabin went quiet again. He pointed to the half-finished report. If this door closes with passenger became upset during a seat dispute, then by landing the record will say I caused the delay. Finish the facts now, while everyone who saw them is still here. The captain looked at Natalie, expecting the executive to settle it. Natalie kept her eyes on Gabriel. He is right. Officer Keene shifted near the galley. The red marks from his fingers were rising on Gabriel's forearm. I responded to a removal request, Keene said. Then record what the request left out, Gabriel answered. My pass scanned green. His scanned red. My child had an accessibility note. You touched me before you checked any of it. Keene opened his mouth, then closed it. The station manager added the sentences. Only when Gabriel read them back did he sit down and fasten his belt. The door closed 9 minutes later. For the other passengers, the crisis was over. For Gabriel, the most dangerous part had only changed shape. Now he had to keep his hands from shaking so Ella would believe he was still the father who knew what came next. The flight departed 19 minutes late. During takeoff, Ella gripped Gabriel's hand and counted elevator models painted on the wings of her imagination. When the plane leveled, she looked back at Natalie. Is she really the boss? Yes. Why does the boss sit behind us? Because we bought row 2. Ella accepted that answer. Natalie did too. When Ella fell asleep, Natalie moved to the aisle beside Gabriel, but did not enter his row. May I speak with you? She asked. Gabriel looked at Ella's hand resting on his sleeve. Quietly, Natalie crouched so he would not have to look up at her. I owe you an apology. You stopped it after it had gone too far. Gabriel studied her. Why did you wait? The question removed the easier version of the story, the one where Natalie had noticed injustice and immediately corrected it. At first, I believed the crew would verify the passes, she said. Then I was watching to understand where the procedure failed, while an officer had his hand on me. Yes, that is what powerful people call waiting. For everyone else, it is being left alone. Natalie accepted the words without defending herself. Gabriel continued. You stood up, said your name, and suddenly the same boarding pass became evidence. Mine had the same barcode. The difference was not the document. It was who they feared being wrong about. And what happens on the next flight when you are not sitting in 3C? Natalie looked toward Diane, then at Keene's empty position near the door. That is the question I have to answer. No, that is the question your company has to answer before another father has to prove he belongs while holding his child together. Natalie rose. Will you help us answer it? Gabriel did not say yes. Help offered too quickly could become unpaid absolution. First show me the report, he said. Then show me whether your company wants the truth or a cleaner story. For the first time that day, Natalie looked less like a CEO with authority than a person being given a test she had not prepared for. Halfway through the flight, Diane asked another crew member to cover the cabin and sat in an empty jump seat near Natalie. I did what the offline procedure says, Diane murmured. The procedure says refer to the manifest, Natalie replied. It does not say ignore a green gate scan. I could not see the gate scan. He told you. Passengers say many things when they want a seat. Natalie turned toward her. That sentence is the problem. You treated his statement as self-interest and Mr. Vale's statement as evidence. Both wanted the seat. Diane looked toward row 2. Ella had fallen asleep with one hand resting on the card that said we stay together. I thought I was protecting a frequent customer from losing an upgrade. Mr. Torres was also a customer. I know that now. You knew it when he showed you a boarding pass with our name on it. Diane's eyes filled, but Natalie did not rescue her from the discomfort. Shame was not reform, yet honest shame could mark the moment excuses ended. Do you want my resignation? Diane asked. I want a complete report. Whether you remain a supervisor will depend on whether you can describe your decision without turning him into the cause of it. Before landing, Diane wrote 3 pages. She did not use the words misunderstanding or unfortunate. She wrote, I chose the older list because it confirmed my expectation. I reported refusal before completing verification. My incomplete report caused security to use force in front of a child. After landing, Rosa waited beyond security with a cane and a sign that read Ella is real in Portland. Ella ran to her carefully, stopping at the last second to ask before hugging. Gabriel nearly forgot the airport officials following behind him. Natalie did not ask for a photograph. She gave Gabriel her direct contact card and said the airline would refund the trip. We used the seats, he said. I am not asking for free travel. You paid for a service that included safe, respectful boarding. We did not provide it. Gabriel thought of the envelope, $40 at a time. Refund the fare. But do not call it compensation. Compensation would require understanding what your people almost broke. What did they almost break? He looked at Ella, showing Rosa her rule cards. Her belief that preparation matters. I spent 6 weeks teaching her that airports have rules we can learn. She followed every rule. Then adults ignored green scans and grabbed me because paper and clothing told them a more convenient story. Natalie wrote nothing down. She wanted to remember the words without turning the moment into a meeting. That night at Rosa's house, Ella lined the 3 rule cards across the guest room floor. She placed we stay together on the left, we ask before we move in the center, and if something changes, Dad explains on the right. Then she turned all 3 face down. Gabriel sat beside her. Why are you hiding them? They did not work. We stayed together. Because the CEO stood up. We stayed together before she stood up too. They tried to make us move. They did not succeed. Ella pressed her palms against the blank backs of the cards. The scanner was green, and the woman said it was not. How do I know which rule is real? Gabriel wanted to tell her that green always meant safe and adults always corrected mistakes. He had spent years learning that comforting lies became more frightening when children discovered them alone. A rule cannot prevent every person from making a bad choice, he said. The rules gave us evidence. They gave me words to use when people were wrong, and they helped us know what to check next. Did the CEO save us? She made them look at the evidence. But our boarding passes were real before she spoke. Ella turned the first card face up. Were you scared? Yes. You looked angry. Sometimes fear puts on an angry face because it thinks that will protect the people we love. Ella leaned against him. Next time, tell me if you are scared. Next time I will. She left the other 2 cards face down. Trust did not return because a father delivered the right speech. It returned one tested promise at a time. After Ella fell asleep, Gabriel found Rosa in the kitchen cutting an apple into slices she was not eating. She asked whether the CEO saved us, he said. Rosa set down the knife. Her right hand still moved more slowly after the stroke. What did you tell her? That the CEO made them look at evidence. Good. I should have taken her off the plane. Rosa waited. She had raised 3 children, and knew guilt often disguised itself as certainty. Before they touched you, she asked. After? When she chose to stay? Which moment are you trying to rewrite? All of them. Gabriel pressed both palms against the counter. I spent almost 2 years saving for those seats. Maybe I needed the plan to work so badly that I kept her inside something that had already hurt her. Or perhaps you gave her a choice when everyone else was taking choices away. She is 8. What if she chose fly now because she thought I needed her to? Rosa slid the plate toward him. Then ask her when the answer cannot save your money, your pride, or the schedule. Ask her tomorrow. Gabriel looked toward the guest room. When that officer pulled me, I could not hear half of what anyone said. I kept thinking, if I let go of the seat, they take me from her. If I hold on, they call it resistance. There was no correct movement. Rosa covered his hand with hers. You believe being her safe person means never being trapped. It means that when you are trapped, you do not abandon her to escape alone. The next morning, Gabriel asked Ella whether staying on the flight had truly been her choice. She considered it for so long he prepared himself for an answer that would hurt. I wanted Grandma more than I wanted the airport to be finished, she said. But next time, show me rest first. You showed me fly first. Gabriel felt the precision of the correction. You are right. He changed the order of the cards. It was a small repair, but real trust was often rebuilt in changes small enough to prove. The internal investigation lasted 5 weeks. Before it began, the airline's general counsel recommended handling the event as an individual service failure. Refund the tickets, offer future travel, discipline the supervisor, and ask Gabriel to keep Ella's medical information out of public discussion. Natalie placed 3 documents on the boardroom screen: the 455 paper manifest, her 614 boarding pass, and Gabriel's green gate scan record. A private refund would turn a system failure into an unhappy customer file, she said. The same obsolete list excluded the CEO and a paying father. Only one of us was treated as if our presence required force. A director asked whether the company faced legal exposure. Yes. Then why broaden the investigation? Because narrowing it might reduce exposure while preserving the cause. Another director suggested the physical contact came from contract security, not airline employees. Natalie displayed Diane's incomplete removal request. Our words sent their hands into that cabin. Outsourcing the uniform did not outsource responsibility. The board authorized a system-wide review of duplicate seat incidents, security dispatch, language, and accessibility cases. Natalie required the findings to reach operations before the legal team reduced them to settlement categories. Before the airline issued a public statement, its communications team drafted a headline. CEO intervenes TO protects special needs child. Natalie called Gabriel before approving it. He read the line twice. No, what would you change, she asked. All of it. Ella is not a prop that proves your company has a heart. And you did not create the truth when you stood up. Natalie looked at the draft. The public will want to know what happened. Then tell them what happened. 2 valid boarding passes were ignored. A stale list was trusted because it favored passengers who looked more believable. Security touched me before anyone used a live scanner. May we acknowledge Ella's autism? Only to explain why dragging her communication partner away caused additional harm. Do not call her inspiring. Do not publish her face. Do not turn a system failure into a story about a CEO rescuing a child. The final statement used no photograph and praised no executive. It admitted that Gabriel and Ella held valid purchase seats, that verification procedures failed, and that force was requested before the available evidence was checked. For Natalie, the statement felt less flattering and more honest. That was how she knew Gabriel had improved it. It found that emergency backup manifests were being used to settle seat disputes even though they could be hours out of date. Paper was faster than finding a connected scanner, so convenience had quietly become procedure. The review also compared incident reports. In duplicate seat disputes, passengers wearing business attire were more often described as awaiting verification. Passengers in work clothing were more often described as refusing to move. The behavior could be identical while the language predicted who security treated as a problem. Mara Vale submitted her own statement. She admitted that Preston remained in the aisle after his barcode failed, questioned the crew, and refused to accept row 6 until a supervisor confirmed it. No one called him defiant. No one summoned security. For him, we behaved as if our confusion deserved patience, and Mr. Torres's confusion required removal, she wrote. The difference was not what the passes showed. It was who we expected to be right. Preston refused to sign the statement. Mara submitted it anyway. Gabriel attended the review in the same work jacket he wore on the plane. A lawyer suggested he might feel more comfortable changing before the board presentation. I am comfortable, Gabriel replied. Are they? He placed 2 incident descriptions on the screen. The first read, Elite passenger reports duplicate assignment and awaits resolution. The second read, Male passenger refuses TO vacate premium seat. Both men had remained seated. Both had presented boarding passes. Both had insisted the seat was theirs. The first sentence creates a customer, Gabriel said. The second creates a suspect. Security met those sentences before they met us. The contractor's director argued that concise dispatch language was necessary. Concise is not the same as loaded, Gabriel replied. Write what happened. Two passengers present duplicate seat claims. One pass scan red. One reports a green gate scan. Cabin device offline. Child has accessibility note. That is concise, and it does not decide who is lying before anyone checks. The revised form used almost exactly those words. Ella attended the final 15 minutes. She brought the original boarding pass and asked the technology director to explain why a green scan could become invisible 6 minutes later. He explained that one screen had updated while another still showed an older record. Ella listened, then said, "So the computer knew, but the people carried the wrong memory." No engineer in the room found a clearer summary. Diane was removed from cabin supervisor duties. She later returned after retraining and wrote a statement that became part of the course. "I believe the document that supported the passenger I expected to see in first class," she wrote. "When the live scan contradicted me, I called the delay defiance." Officers Keene and Wallace were suspended from airline assignments until completing verification and disability response training. Dispatch forms now showed scan results and accessibility notes before officers entered an aircraft. Keene requested a private meeting with Gabriel after completing the first week of training. Gabriel agreed only if a disability advocate attended, and the conversation became part of the official review. Keene arrived without his uniform. Without the radio, badge, and black vest, he looked younger than Gabriel remembered. "I want to apologize for grabbing you," he began. "I was told there was a disruptive passenger refusing a lawful instruction." Gabriel unfolded a copy of the dispatch note. "You were told a sentence. Then you decided the sentence was me." Keene stared at the page. "We have seconds to assess a cabin. You had enough seconds to ask Diane whether I was violent. She said you would not leave the seat. That is not the same question." The advocate said nothing. The silence prevented Keene from escaping into procedure. "No," he admitted. "It is not." Gabriel placed two photographs on the table. One showed the bruising on his forearm. The other showed Ella clinging to his waist, her face buried against his jacket. "I do not need you to feel terrible when you look at these," Gabriel said. "Feeling terrible is about you. I need to know what you will do before grabbing the next father." Keene's first answer sounded memorized. Request live verification, assess disability needs, use de-escalation. Gabriel waited. Keene tried again. "I will ask what has been verified and what has only been reported. I will ask the child what she understands. And if no one is in danger, I will not manufacture urgency because an aircraft wants to leave on time. What if the crew tells you the passenger is refusing? I will describe what I see before I act on what they called it." Gabriel nodded once. It was not forgiveness. Forgiveness demanded nothing from the future. Accountability did. 3 months later, Keene sent the review board a report from another gate. A mother and teenage son had been labeled uncooperative after refusing to separate during a rebooking problem. Keene paused the removal, checked the accessibility note, and learned the son communicated through his mother during overload. No one was touched. They were rebooked together. Gabriel read the report twice, then showed it to Ella. "Did he become good?" she asked. "People are not one decision," Gabriel said. But this time, he made a better one before someone had to stop him. The paper lists were marked not current for seat verification, and every gate kept a connected scanner available until the door closed. Natalie invited Gabriel and Ella to review a new quiet boarding process. Gabriel accepted payment for his time. He had learned that refusing money did not make his knowledge more honest. Clear terms did. Ella tested the process with brutal accuracy. "The announcement says pre-boarding begins now," she told a project manager, "but 3 people are still vacuuming. That is not quiet." The vacuuming schedule changed. They also tested a duplicate seat protocol. Employees were required to state 3 things before asking anyone to move: what each pass showed, whether either barcode had been checked live, and where the passengers could wait together if verification required leaving the cabin. During one simulation, an employee addressed Gabriel while standing behind Ella. She turned around and said, "If you need Dad to move me, tell me too. I am not luggage attached to his reservation." That sentence was added to family seating training in more formal language. Communicate directly with the child or dependent passenger in an accessible way. Do not treat the accompanying adult as the only person affected. The first time Ella entered the test aircraft, she stopped at the cabin door. The same boarding chime sounded. The same narrow aisle stretched ahead. Her hands moved toward her headphones, but she did not put them on. I want to go home, she said. Every project manager looked at Gabriel, waiting for him to persuade her. He did not. We can go home, he said. Or we can stand here until you decide. The test belongs to you too. An agent brought a connected scanner without being asked. She scanned Ella's practice pass, turned the screen so Ella could see the green result and current timestamp, then read each rule card aloud. If something changes, the agent said, I explain it to both of you before anyone moves. Ella remained at the door for 43 seconds. Then she stepped inside and chose her seat. After the simulation, Natalie asked what made her continue. She showed me the live truth, Ella said. And Dad let leaving be a real choice. The quiet boarding program added one final principle. Assistance was not successful merely because a passenger completed the journey. The passenger had to retain meaningful choices along the way. 6 months later, Gabriel and Ella flew home from Portland after another visit. This time they chose economy seats together. Not because first class had been wrong, but because Ella wanted to prove she could follow a new plan. The first change came before security. Their gate moved from B12 to C7. Ella stopped beneath the departure screen. Travelers divided around her like water around a stone. Her hand closed over the clear pocket holding the rule cards. We practiced gate changes, Gabriel said. This one is real. Yes. She studied his face. Are you scared? 6 months earlier, he would have said no automatically. Fathers often hid fear because they believed children borrowed confidence from them. But Ella had asked for something harder than confidence. She had asked for truth. A little, he said. I am remembering the officers. I am also looking at the screen, and it says we stay together at C7. What if the screen is wrong? Then we check another source before we move. They opened the airline app. C7. They asked an agent. C7. Ella turned card 2 face up. We asked before we move. 2 truths, she said. 2 sources, Gabriel corrected gently. The sources agree. That makes 1 truth. They walked to C7 together. At the gate, a scanner flashed green. Ella looked at the agent. Is your list newer than my boarding pass? The agent smiled and turned the screen so she could see the live timestamp. It is current to this second. Ella nodded. Good system. The agent noticed the accessibility note and crouched into Ella's line of sight. Your seats are 18A and 18B, she said. They are together. If anything changes, I will tell both of you before boarding. Ella looked at Gabriel. She said it before we asked. That is what a better system feels like. At row 18, a man was already sitting in Ella's window seat. Gabriel felt his body remember before his mind could reason. His forearm tightened where Keen's fingers had bruised it months earlier. The flight attendant did not tell anyone to move. She scanned both passes, learned the man belonged on the next flight, and explained the error to all 3 of them. May I ask him to move now? She asked Ella. Ella checked the green screen, then looked at the man. He was embarrassed, not angry. Yes, she said, because now everybody knows why. The correction took 40 seconds. No raised voices. No security. No hero in the row behind them. Gabriel sat down and released a breath he had been holding for 6 months. On the plane, she placed a 4th card beside the original 3. Card 4 read, if a person and a paper disagree, check the live truth. Natalie kept her boarding pass from Flight 286 framed inside the operations conference room. Not because it carried the CEO's name, but because that name had been missing from the same obsolete list used against Gabriel. Her boarding pass did not prove that powerful people belonged in first class. It proved the paper was stale. Gabriel's pass had already proved the rest. He had paid for the seats. He had prepared his daughter. He had followed every instruction. And when security tried to remove him, the truth did not arrive with the CEO. It had flashed green at the gate long before she stood up.